The 1960s were a time of rebellion, when rock and roll shook the airwaves and motorcycles became more than machines. They were symbols of freedom. Young riders in leather jackets gathered at roadside cafes, chasing speed across back roads and wide-open highways. It was a decade when every extra mile per hour meant defiance, style, and pride. At the dawn of the 60s, the fastest bikes topped out around 105 miles per hour. By the close of the decade, that figure had climbed to 125, a leap that forever changed what riders expected from two wheels. Today, let's look back at 10 of the fastest and most iconic motorcycles of the 1960s, machines that defined an era and still inspire riders everywhere. 1967 Moto Guzzi V7. In 1967, Italy gave the world something both practical and poetic, the Moto Guzzi V7. At its heart was a 703 cubic centimeter transverse-mounted V-twin, producing between 40 and 45 horsepower. It wasn't the most powerful engine of its time, but with a top speed of 105 to 110 miles per hour, it delivered steady performance that riders could count on. What truly set it apart was the design. Those cylinders jutting out to either side weren't just for looks. They improved cooling and gave the bike a silhouette unlike anything else on the road. Owners often described the ride as planted and smooth, yet never lacking soul. The deep, throaty rumble from its dual exhausts had a way of pulling your wrist deeper into the throttle, urging you to stay just a little longer in that sweet spot. Beyond the numbers, the V7 represented Moto Guzzi's philosophy: simplicity, durability, and a uniquely Italian charm. More than a motorcycle, it was a turning point for the company, setting the stage for decades of long-distance touring machines that followed. Today, the original V7 is remembered as a milestone, a perfect blend of mechanical reliability and timeless European elegance. 1962, Norton Atlas. By 1962, the British motorcycle wars were heating up, and Norton answered with the Atlas. This machine carried a 745 cubic centimeter parallel twin that produced about 50 horsepower. Enough to push the bike to a respectable 110 miles per hour. On paper, it looked like another big British twin, but in practice it offered something special. The Atlas gave riders an upright seating position, a throaty exhaust note, and the kind of rock-solid stability that made it feel unshakable on the straights. Its steel frame gave it strength and durability, yet it was still agile when the road began to twist. Riders loved how it could cruise confidently at high speeds, then carve through sweeping bends with surprising grace. The Atlas wasn't just another motorcycle, it was a foundation stone. It paved the way for the Norton Commando, a bike that would later become a legend in its own right. For the youth of the 1960s, however, the Atlas was more immediate, a declaration of defiance. It spoke to the spirit of rebellion, the desire to stand apart. In a fiercely competitive market, the Atlas kept Norton alive, ensuring the brand's voice was heard in a crowded chorus of speed and style. 1960 BMW R69S. In 1960, BMW unveiled what many still consider the pinnacle of German engineering in the classic era, the R69S. At its core was a 594 cubic centimeters air-cooled boxer twin, producing 42 horsepower and capable of reaching about 110 miles per hour. While those numbers alone were impressive for its day, what riders truly valued was the balance. With its cylinders opposed and low to the ground, the R69S carried an exceptionally low center of gravity, giving it stability and confidence unmatched by most rivals. The Earl's leading link front fork was another standout. It kept the bike composed under hard braking and when carrying a passenger, making it a favorite for long tours across Europe or the open highways of America. Add to that BMW's reliable shaft drive, nearly maintenance-free and built to last, and you had a machine that earned its reputation for bulletproof dependability. But the R69S wasn't only about mechanics. It was a statement of taste. Its teardrop fuel tank, dual seat, and clean, elegant lines reflected a distinctly German sense of style. Functional, yet refined. Owning one was as much about appreciating craftsmanship as it was about going fast. The R69S embodied both speed and sophistication, a timeless icon of 1960s motorcycling. 1965, BSA Lightning. By the mid-1960s, BSA was determined to keep its crown as one of Britain's great motorcycle makers, and the 1965 Lightning was their answer. Beneath its gleaming tank sat a 650 cubic centimeter parallel twin that produced about 52 horsepower and pushed the bike to around 112 miles per hour.
Button on this one.
Quick, reliable, and spirited, it gave riders the kind of punch that made every twist of the throttle feel like an event. The styling made it unforgettable. A polished fuel tank, twin headlights staring down the road, and chrome accents that flashed in the sun gave the Lightning a bold, unmistakable look. Its crisp exhaust bark added to the drama, echoing through city streets and country lanes alike. More than numbers and looks, though, the Lightning became tied to the youth culture of its time. In Britain, it was the bike of the rocker crowd, the leather jacket rebels who gathered at cafes and raced into the night. Balanced handling made it equally at home, dodging traffic in town or stretching its legs on long rides, a rare blend of practicality and thrill. The Lightning embodied an era when speed, style, and rebellion rolled together on two wheels. 1968 Suzuki T500. In 1968, Suzuki introduced a motorcycle that silenced critics and reshaped opinions about big two-strokes, the T500. At its heart was a 492 cubic centimeter parallel twin two-stroke engine, producing between 47 and 50 horsepower. With a top speed of about 115 miles per hour, it proved that a two-stroke could be both fast and dependable. The secret was Suzuki's Posiforce oil injection system, a clever innovation that delivered precise lubrication directly to the engine's moving parts. This greatly extended reliability and durability, addressing the old stigma that large two-strokes wore out too quickly. Pair that with a lightweight chassis and a smooth shifting 5-speed gearbox, and the T500 offered crisp acceleration and nimble handling that made it as fun on winding back roads as it was on the open highway. More than just a machine, the T500 marked Suzuki's arrival as a true global competitor. It demonstrated that the company could build not only small displacement commuters, but also serious high-performance motorcycles. The T500 paved the way for the legendary GT750 and set Suzuki on course to challenge European and American dominance. It was proof that Japan's rise in the motorcycle world was no passing trend, but a revolution in the making. 1969 Yamaha XS1. By 1969, Yamaha was ready to prove it could play in the big league. The XS1 was their bold statement, a 653 cubic centimeter parallel twin that produced about 53 horsepower and reached a top speed of 115 miles per hour. On paper, it lined up directly against Triumph and BSA, but in execution, it brought a level of refinement the British twins often lacked. The XS1 featured a 5-speed gearbox for smooth acceleration and, notably, an electric starter, rare in this category at the time. These touches made it approachable, even for riders who might have been intimidated by kickstart-only machines. Paired with its slim profile and excellent balance, the XS1 felt civilized without losing its edge. Styling was clean and understated, with careful attention to detail that reflected Yamaha's precision. Many saw it as the perfect blend of British elegance and Japanese reliability, a bike that looked the part but also delivered day after day without fuss. For Yamaha, the XS1 was more than just another model. It was the company's first true big bike, the machine that signaled they were ready to challenge the dominance of Triumph and BSA. It marked the start of a new era, with Japan rising as a serious force in the heavyweight class. 1965 Harley-Davidson XLCH Sportster. In 1965, Harley-Davidson sharpened the Sportster line into something raw and unforgettable, the XLCH. At its core was the Ironhead 883 cubic centimeter V-twin, a tough high-compression engine that could push the bike to around 115 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest Harleys of its time. But numbers were only part of the story. What riders remember most was its attitude. The XLCH wore its stripped-down look with pride, the small peanut gas tank, tall handlebars, and a lean silhouette that gave it a rebellious edge. Fire it up, and the exhaust roared with a ferocity that was pure American thunder. It wasn't polished or polite. It was built to announce itself at every stoplight and every roadside diner. More than just a motorcycle, the XLCH became a cultural icon. It appeared in biker movies, rolled down Route 66, and was embraced by motorcycle clubs across the country. For many riders, this was the machine that opened the door to the outlaw lifestyle, the feeling of belonging to something bigger than the ride itself. The XLCH Sportster was freedom on two wheels, wrapped in steel and attitude, a gateway into the rebellious spirit of American motorcycling. 1967, Triumph Bonneville. By 1967, few motorcycles carried the same weight in name and legend as the Triumph Bonneville. Powered by a 650 cubic centimeter parallel twin producing about 46 horsepower, it could reach a top speed of roughly 120 miles per hour. That performance alone kept it near the top of the charts. But the Bonneville was never just about speed. It was about image. With its teardrop-shaped fuel tank, bright chrome accents, and clean, elegant lines, the Bonneville was a beauty to behold. It looked fast even when standing still, the kind of bike that graced posters in bedrooms and glossy magazine covers. On the road, it backed up that glamour with a balanced, predictable feel that riders trusted. Its exhaust note at high revs was music, sharp, evocative, and thrilling. Cultural influence pushed the Bonneville even higher. It became the ride of movie stars and rock legends, with Steve McQueen often pictured astride one. That connection cemented the bike's place in pop culture as a symbol of cool, rebellion, and speed. The Triumph Bonneville wasn't just Britain's pride, it became a global icon. For many, it was the motorcycle of the 1960s, the perfect mix of style, handling, and performance. 1968 Norton Commando. When Norton unveiled the Commando in 1968, it wasn't just another motorcycle, it was a lifeline. At its heart was a 745 cubic centimeter parallel twin delivering around 60 horsepower, enough to push the bike to a top speed of 120 miles per hour. Impressive figures, yes, but what truly set the Commando apart was its innovation. Norton engineers introduced the isolastic frame, a clever design that mounted the engine in rubber to absorb vibration. The result was a smooth, comfortable ride at high speeds, something riders of big British twins had long dreamed of. Visually, the Commando had muscle. Its broad fuel tank, sporty stance, and strong lines gave it presence whether parked at the curb or roaring down the highway. It looked modern and fast, perfectly tuned to the tastes of the late 1960s. More importantly, the Commando saved Norton in an era of fierce competition. It appealed to thrill seekers who wanted speed and to touring riders who demanded comfort, a rare union of performance and refinement. For many, it was the perfect motorcycle of its time, proving that Norton still had the ability to innovate and inspire. The Commando remains a shining chapter in British motorcycling history. 1969, Honda CB 750. In 1969, Honda unleashed a motorcycle that would change the industry forever, the CB 750. Its 736 cubic centimeters inline-4 produced 67 horsepower and could carry riders to a top speed of about 125 miles per hour, placing it squarely at the top of the performance charts. But the real revolution wasn't just in speed, it was in accessibility. For the first time, a production motorcycle combined an electric starter, a front disc brake, and remarkable reliability into one affordable package. Riders who once thought superbike performance was reserved for race machines or expensive exotics suddenly found it within reach. Honda's engineering made power easy to live with, and maintenance was refreshingly straightforward. The styling sealed the deal. 4 gleaming exhaust pipes spilled from the engine, balanced by uncluttered lines that looked sharp then and remain timeless today. It was elegant without being fussy, modern without losing character. The CB 750 quickly became known as the motorcycle that rewrote the rulebook. It sparked the era of the universal Japanese motorcycle, forcing every manufacturer to rethink what a street bike should be. More than a machine, it was a turning point, bringing high performance to the masses and launching Honda into legend. The 1960s marked a decade when motorcycles leapt from fast to legendary. What began with machines topping just over 105 miles per hour ended with superbikes capable of 125, a clear sign of how quickly speed and engineering advanced. Yet these bikes were more than numbers on a speedometer. They carried the style of Britain, the precision of Germany, the flair of Italy, the muscle of America, and the rising power of Japan. Together, they shaped a golden age when motorcycles became cultural icons as much as mechanical marvels. Which of these classics do you remember best? Share your memories in the comments and tell us which one still holds the top spot in your heart.